What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 58. This is the August 2021 edition, and we are sitting down this morning with TCC President Robb Roach and VP of Sales and Marketing Petrarca. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
How you guys doing?
Sweaty. Been running around preparing for a hurricane to hit us over the weekend. So,
Yeah, it feels like it came up fast, and all of a sudden we're looking at this path, and it's like coming straight at us.
yeah, literally coming straight at us. But we've got a backup on backup on backup. So I think we're going to be fine here at TCC. But still, a lot of preparation, a lot to do just to make sure things are tied down. And if it does, is a direct impact, that we're prepared as much as we can be.
Yeah, and I guess talking about the upcoming hurricane is a good segment right into one of our first topics is talking about quarter three. I think now we're in mid-August, we're peak start of the hurricane season. So if you haven't been thinking about it already, now is absolutely the time to probably start thinking about it, whether that's moving around raw materials, understanding your supply chains. Not a bad time to ramp up inventories in advance of the impending hurricane season, as we're already seeing with this first one coming up strong.
Yeah, I guess if there's one good thing is that the hurricane's heading towards Rhode Island and not the Gulf Coast, because I don't know if the chemical industry could take a massive storm right now. But I don't know if there is any positive in this. That's one piece.
Not great for us, but good for the broader chemical industry.
Yep.
Yeah, we're still recovering on the Gulf Coast from last year and prior years. So, that is one positive thought.
Yeah, between the hurricanes last year, the ice storms we had in February, I think you're definitely right. We probably can't take another hurricane right about now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think absolutely, I think we've seen a bunch of reports coming out that it's going to be I think above average hurricane season this year is the way it's being described. So, like we said, certainly not a bad time to ramp up inventories.
I think it's a prudent time to look at your inventories, build inventories, be prepared as much as you can.
And also speaking of inventories, talking about China, I know, AJ, you had a good correspondence come across from, I believe it was a supplier or contact, talking about what's coming up in China. I know at least I personally had forgotten about the fact that China's hosting the Winter Olympics in February. So I know we're seeing a bunch of potential issues with ports being closed or operating minimally, difficulties getting material out of China for Q1. It's, I think, going to be interesting. What was that overall feeling?
Yeah, it's not looking good. I mean, we're already in a bad position from China to the U.S. right now as far as logistics goes, and with the upcoming Olympics and then the Chinese New Year also coming up in February. I don't know if you probably remember the last time China had the Olympics there, they just shut down production well in advance to try to cut down smog and pollution because they want to look good for the world scale. So there's probably going to be a lot of that, and also a lot of logistics constraints with all the, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be shipped when the Olympics happen. There's a lot of things behind the scene that people don't realize. There's a lot of increased freight and movement, so it's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah. I think the report you said, like, the ports could essentially be closed to commercial traffic for all of Q1 almost?
Yeah, certain ports, like ones that they use specifically for the Olympic equipment, we're told that there'll be increased security and chemicals won't be as welcome there as other commodities potentially. So it's gonna cause some major supply constraints, and we're planning now. Here we are coming towards the end of August. We're already planning for Q1 and Q2 2022 business, and getting things shipped and secured, and this is a lot earlier than we typically do that.
Yeah. And what is the outlook? Like, when are we telling customers to have orders in by and confirm by to meet a Q1 arrival?
I mean, if it was me, I'd be ordering now for Q1, Q2
Yeah.
arrival. That's what I'm suggesting to people. I mean, it's gonna add cost to get it here and warehouse it. But I mean, that's the security of having it here, because I think if you wait until November, December, I mean, vessel space isn't going to be available. Even right now, vessel space is really bad. I think just as we get closer to that February 2022 timeframe, it's just going to be non-existent.
Yeah. So we're not talking about the planning phase. We're talking about, the action phase. You should start really be looking at this and placing orders and getting ready.
Yeah, I'm treating this like this is the action phase.
Yeah. And obviously, I think freight's not any better anywhere else in the world. I mean, China's maybe exceptionally bad, but I think we're still seeing issues in and around Europe, starting to get maybe a little bit tighter coming out of places like South America. Obviously, missing our Latin American operations manager today, but I think we're still seeing freight issues globally continuing to be an issue.
Yeah, locally and globally. I
Yeah.
mean, we were having freight issues, just moving product out of the ports, getting chassis, getting ISOs moved, getting liquid bulk moved. Dry bulk isn't nearly as much of an issue, but so on the local level, on a macro level, to AJ's point, I mean, even if you do order now, we're seeing sometimes 4 to 6 week delays before it even hits the port. And then, of course, the COVID restrictions in China, you know, that's having further impact on even getting it through the port.
Yep.
So, and COVID will continue to be a problem in China. Only China could shut things down the way that they do when they do have an outbreak, and we've seen some pretty significant impacts from that. And then, looking at the global scale, freight right now is very expensive, no matter what your origin is and what your destination is.
And that's assuming you can actually get a load booked, whether it's a truck or an ocean vessel. Assuming you get it booked, it's expensive, but that's assuming you can even get it booked. We're seeing issues just even getting trucks booked, getting
Yeah, we're having
space on
issues out of
vessels.
Europe, Middle East,
Yeah.
Latin America. Going to Latin America, we're seeing issues across the board, and especially the biggest impact is delays.
Yeah.
So Q1, Q2 seems like a far planning stage out, but in reality, we'll probably only hold that product for a month or two by
Right.
the time it gets here.
Yeah, it's amazing how incredibly difficult it's gotten. I think the only overwhelming advice we can give is just be flexible, allow as much lead time as possible, and just, I think flexibility is the biggest thing we can be telling customers right now.
The supply chain issues are still really evident, and people are starting to think, well, commodities are going to change. Say lumber, price went up and dropped.
Yep.
It's not going to happen across the board. They're seeing oil prices drop, and they think that's going to have an impact on the cost and the supply chain. It's not. Things are completely separated still. So raw material costs versus the cost of supply of goods, it's completely, it's completely separate right
Yeah.
now, and will be.
Yeah.
Freight rates
No, go
approaching,
ahead.
freight rates approaching $20,000 and, maybe go to close to $40,000. That's going to be a huge driver for a lot of things that we buy going forward. I read an interesting article, I think it was yesterday, one of the major container shipping companies, they made, in the last 6 months, they made more profit than the prior 10 years combined. So, they have essentially the same fixed cost, and just
Yeah.
with these freight rates at the levels that they are, they're doing real well. But a lot of people are looking at it to see if it's all above, on the up and up, to make sure they're not, kind of talking with each other and fixing freight rates. So we'll see what comes out of that.
It seems criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, supply and demand fundamentals changes to potentially conspiracies and things like that happening amongst the companies. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out of this in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming in a couple of years, freight rates from China are no longer $20,000-$30,000. We can all
The
hope
other
for that.
the other side of that coin is that there has been a business methodology to keep inventories extremely low, and then you throw on top of that a pandemic where you just
Yep.
see your business go to zero overnight, and so there was no preparedness. There's further weakening of that preparedness, and then a absolute rush of demand where we have impacts from weather events that we can't supply enough. So as much as you want to say that there's some conspiracy here, there really, if you look at it, it's been happening over the last 10 years where, the accounting principles have meant keeping very low inventories and, just in time, and all these business practices that are not really prudent in the modern world.
Yeah, and we had one of our logistics partners, the logistics company, on our last episode, and we'll probably have them on next episode, give them a break for this one. But it was interesting talking with them and trying to understand what the bottleneck is, whether it's drivers, whether it's trucks, whether it's chassis. It seems like the answer to that question is just yes. Everything's tight. There's a shortage of everything, coupled with incredibly high import demand and container demand. It's just kind of a perfect storm, unfortunately.
And nothing's being done.
Yeah.
And
that's what is the fix? I mean, manufacture more trucks, hire more drivers.
I talked to one of our trucking partners the other day, and they said, as crazy as it seems, allow people to come in from Mexico or other countries to drive, if they have the proper licensing and background checks and being vetted. I mean, there's things you can do, but really, there's so many problems on so many levels globally. This is just one of them, and I don't think it's being properly paid attention to.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Something we're also keeping a close eye on, the trade and tariff piece. Obviously, we're still dealing with the 25% duties out of China, so those seem like they're going to be hanging around for a while. As more and more companies are doing importing and exporting and looking at new supply chains for their raw materials, we have an upcoming mini-series focusing on importing, exporting, as well as anti-dumping regulations. So that should be coming out probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks or so. But we're looking forward to that as the trade and tariff and import and export continues to be a major topic, and I think will continue to be a big discussion point probably through at least the end of this year into next year. Obviously coming upon Christmas season, so more and more goods coming over from China for holidays, so it's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, you would think maybe something they could do is drop the tariff, but that would just increase the number of imports, which we can't handle at a current pace. So
Yeah.
I think the infrastructure thing might, be a good thing in the long run. Maybe they can do something to ease the traffic through the ports as part of that infrastructure plan. We are going to be a net importer of things, a variety of different things, probably in perpetuity. So I think it would be pretty prudent to fix that system.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about price updates and trends for August. I know we're kind of right in the middle of the month, so keeping an eye on what might happen here for September. Crude oil coming down a bit, benzene coming down a bit. We're seeing propylene numbers that seem like they're trending upwards, so a little bit of mix there. But like you said, as close as we can try to follow these raw material numbers, the pricing it seems like coming in for September and the next 3 months is really just going to be supply and demand and market driven.
I think the highlight is propylene. There's some real concern about propylene and the values and the availability. So keep an eye on that one because we're already seeing somewhere around 40 cents between current spot and contract.
Yep.
That's a huge gap.
Yep.
So that's going to drive pricing at some point, even though you have that supply and demand fracture between pricing and raw materials. But propylene is definitely one we're paying a lot of attention to right now.
Yeah. And I know we're talking just before this recording about some of the products you manage as well and similar things. No matter what the raw material is doing, it seems like it's all just supply and demand driven on what pricing is doing for the next month.
Very largely supply and demand driven, and a lot of the products that I manage come from, are imported and come from places like China. So it's subject to ocean freight and if you can get it. So not very much driven by raw materials at all at this point.
And unless there's any other recommendations you guys can make, it's really just keeping in touch with your contacts from your suppliers to understand what's happening in pricing. I think a lot of purchasing managers historically might have looked at some of these raw materials and pricing to figure out what pricing is going to do, but it's really just talking to whether it's your supplier contacts or people in the industry to understand what's happening and what the outlooks can be on pricing, because it's not really something you can nail down in a figure, I guess.
Yeah, we're seeing in a few products, we're seeing producers coming back online and offering lower pricing. But I think that it's, prudent advice to keep everybody in the mix at this point, because even though we're seeing these potentially offers a lower pricing, the proof is in the pudding when you get deliveries and there's limited supply. And of course, you go back to freight and logistics, and there's problems with getting it there. So
Yep.
You don't want to put all your eggs in any basket at this point, because wherever you can get it, I'd say you should get it, especially with demand staying relatively strong, whether it's in coatings or in paints or across the board. In what we service, demand remains very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a call just this morning from a guy that was buying, I forget what the product was, but he was basically single sourced, couldn't get material. There was a delay in material and kind of scrambling to find backup sources. So case in point, try to have as many sources as you can.
I think we're seeing that every day, friends and even fair weather friends coming out, of the woodwork looking for supply of things that we've historically supplied them, or things maybe that we haven't, because you're seeing that breakdown happen at all levels.
Yep. Featured products, new products, and things that are coming in for the fall season. I know we have a inventory of phthalic anhydride that we're still stocking and prepared to sell. Something that we're looking at here readily.
Yep, we still have some of that left. It seems to be going out pretty well. coming into seasonal products too,
Yep.
things like methanol and glycols. So that's going to start really ramping up. I think we just brought in 4 new rail cars for methanol for the season. And
Yep.
so, yeah, I mean, we're excited about the seasonal products and yeah, we're pretty strong in the ester derivatives, things like that, like anhydride, 2-EH, butanol, et cetera. So, and getting stronger, we're bringing in more products all the time.
Yeah, and looking more upstream, obviously the plasticizers continues to be a big thing for us. As there's more and more sources and maybe producers coming back online, we do still have a significant base of products, both domestically and via imports available. So as a secondary source or primary source, we're happy to take a look at pretty much anything for.
And bulk and packaged.
Yep.
and a complete line. You talk about from citrates to benzoates to phthalates to terephtalates, you name it, we've got it. So
Yep.
we've got a real robust line, and we're ready to go.
Absolutely. Thinking about trade shows a little bit. Seems like some stuff starting to get planned for the fall. We're hopefully looking forward to it. I know the Chemicals America show is coming up in Charleston, only 2-3 weeks, so that'll come up before we do our next recording. Keeping an eye on that one. The Elastomer Conference in Pittsburgh, AFPM coming up in San Antonio. That's AFPM 2021. Also keeping an eye on AFPM 2022, which will go back to the normal March 2022 schedule, as well as the Compounders Conference hosted by Plastics in December. So a slate of trade shows and events coming up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, things go as planned, and we're keeping a close eye on them. I think we're all ready to get back to shows and conferences and shaking hands and traveling with our booth and getting it all set up and the fun that goes around that. So hopefully looking forward to some of those shows coming back soon.
For sure. Looking forward to it.
I think we're all anxious to get back out there in whatever capacity we can.
Yeah, it's been a good summer, visiting with people, having meals with people again, sharing information. Hope that continues into the fall. The Delta variant is certainly having an impact all of a sudden. And with kids going back to school, there are probably going to be some more concerns, but hopefully it'll all go off. We're 100% in. We're ready to go, shipping our booths to Charleston, and looking forward to seeing all our producing partners and friends at AFPM.
Yeah.
So, we're in. Hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting back to some in-person meetings. I think Robb's probably excited to delete GoToMeeting off of his laptop, if I had to guess.
Yes. I can't take it anymore.
It's been a great tool for the past, I guess, close to 18 months now. But
Teams,
yeah.
Zoom, GoTo, all of it. Yeah, I mean, it's been a great tool, but nothing can replace in person and relationships in this business or any business, in my opinion.
Agreed. Well, I think that was a relatively short, concise episode, but a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of similar stuff. We're keeping an eye on, obviously, the fall and all the fun that comes along with it. But anything to wrap things up here?
Don't let your guard down. Really.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't let your guard down. I mean, if we're up here in the Northeast getting hit with a hurricane, and this is the early in the season of that, we go right through November. The supply chain, the outlook that AJ gave for China is very important. I hope you pay attention to that because the first half of next year is going to be really difficult in terms of China supply.
Yep.
So be prepared, like the Boy Scouts say, and I think that's a prudent advice right now.
Yeah, if you're not already looking at it, definitely be sure to take a look at it. I know we had some good China write-up info, so I'm sure we can send that out if anybody wants to reach out to any of us. We're happy to share the info that we're getting because I know it's all important and certainly timely. Now's the time to start planning.
Bye now.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys. Good talking to you all.
Thank you, Ben.
We'll certainly catch you on the next September episode here coming up soon. And appreciate it. Appreciate you listening in whatever format you're streaming on. And we'll see y'all soon.